3X Lex, 3X Lex for 3X Tech. Back at it again. All right, guys. Finally back. This is part 2 of my Super Console Cube X3 overview. I'm really impressed with this device. I touched on that a lot on the original overview video I dropped a couple weeks ago. Sorry for just getting back with you guys. Been super busy. Been working on a lot of stuff with the Slayer in the background. Keep your eyes open. I don't want to give any dates or time frames for anything right now, but I'm still working vigorously with a lot of things, on a lot of things. So just keep your eyes open. Definitely we'll see some things happen this year with that. But back to the Super Console X Cube X3. Yeah, fantastic device. Like, I really like it. I would say this device is probably, probably the best retro device value in the game. Like, the variety that's on this build that comes with this, the big 256, because it comes in 3 ways: 64, 128, and 256. The 256 big version is really good. It has a great selection of games. 2 sections are just controversial. N64 section is freaking awesome on here. I'm not a real big N64 guy, and anybody that watched my channel, especially in the past, will probably know that. I'm not a real big N64 guy, but there's a huge selection on here. There's like, yeah, over 250 games. Pretty much all of the greats, they're all USA builds. They're not Japanese stuff or anything like that. And it's just a great build. Everything you be looking for is going to be on here for N64. The games run great. A few I ran into issues with, like the cruising games. 007 runs great for the most part. There's some slowdown here and there, but overall, 007 I would say is solid on here. There's a few games, but for the most part, N64 on here is great. It's a lot better than N64 on a Raspberry Pi. Like, N64 on the Pi just flat out stinks. To be 100% honest with you, it just stinks. Like, it was never good. Even on an overclock build, it still wasn't any good. So that's just my thoughts on that. And but it's a great build. The biggest controversy on here, though, is something I want to kind of go more into depth about on PlayStation and PlayStation Portable sections. The biggest controversy is going to be this. On this build, it has a whopping 656 games on the PlayStation section. It's controversial because pretty much everything you will want is on here, and they have a ton of great imports that's on here too that you aren't going to really find anywhere else. Like Xanax is on here, Zero Divide, like really obscure games, Heaven's Gates. So it's a great build. Here's the thing though. Many of these games, especially the USA games, they've taken the soundtracks out. So the games play, but they don't have any background music, so to say. Now, I got mixed feelings about that. Because you have to ask yourself, would you want 70 hardcore top PS1 games with the sound included? Or would you want 600 PS1 games where some have the sound and some don't. That's pretty controversial, you know, because they got some really obscure, cool, rare stuff on here that I'd never even played that I enjoy. So I'm on the fence about that. Some of the import games still have the sound files, which is great. You still get the sound effects, but background music is going to be gone. So what I've done, I've altered this image somewhat, actually a lot to be honest, to get it more toward what I would want. And like the more prominent games, like the biggest games on here, like Iron Hander, Tekken 3, Bloody Roar 2, I've taken them out and I've included the a replacement version of that particular game with sound, with the full sound in there. Now, the thing about that is you really have to make sure you have enough space to do something like that. So I put Tekken 3 back in, took out the one that was on here and put it back in. And I included one that had, it's a good version of it that had the sound and everything. So it runs great. I was actually able to do a small resolution bump too. I want to say, I don't think this device is entirely accurate because what I'm looking at, it may say it's 720 or 1080p resolution, but in reality, it's not. I would say it's not, in my opinion, because I know what an overclocked PC image looks of a good build. I know what 720 looks like. I would say this is more probably 480p. It's clean. It's above what regular PlayStation resolution ran. So it looks good. It looks damn good. Games run at 60 pretty much locked. FPS counter is up in the right corner, so you can keep an eye on how things run. You can cut that off, but I cut it on just to get a little bit better perspective of how things look. Tekken 3 runs great on here. It's one of the more demanding games too.
Round one. Fight.
Good comeback. This game had a rocking soundtrack too, man. One of my favorite fighting games ever. I would say this was Tekken's coming out party for real. Like, the first two games were like very popular, especially 2. But when this game came out, this is when it kind of like surpassed Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat at that time. And it was, I would say, the most popular fighting game out there when this game came out. Came out late 96 in Japan. Very like 96, like November, December. I don't remember it even showing up over here until about late spring in America, 97. And it just caused a tidal wave. 2 was already incredibly popular, arcade and PC. And this came out so quick and it was so damn good. New characters, tons of new characters. much improved graphics. Just a phenomenal playing game. Actual 3D movement. The game was just crazy. Like it was the biggest fighting game out there. It was a lot of games making waves, but by the end, like the hype around Street Fighter had kind of died down. I think Alpha 2 was out. It was real popular, but a lot of cats was kind of over Street Fighter at that point, at least for then. MK had kind of fizzled out. I think 4 ended up coming out, but it was kind of a disappointment. So 3 was just like freaking amazing, man. At that time, none could touch it. Only thing really could keep up with it at that time was probably Dead or Alive. It came out too. It just, Dead or Alive in America was just not really what it needed to be. It came out here late. I want to say that game came out in Japan late 96. We didn't get it till like spring of 98. Great game. Phenomenal fighting game. One of the best ever, but it just wasn't properly marketed or pushed, so it never really got the popularity. When 2 came out on Dreamcast, it took off. Kind of had the title as the best fighting game out there for a minute, but in this era, it was Tekken 3 for sure. So anyway, that's Tekken 3. I've shown that a million times, but it's important to show games like Tekken 3 and Bloody Roar 2 when you're showing off PlayStation, and there's a reason for that. Without giving away too much secret sauce, I'll just say for these consoles, if you really want to test, and you're on, especially if you're on a lower power device and not like a big performance PC, those are going to be probably 2 of the 4 or 5 most demanding games to check. So if you got that game, especially with a small upscale running at full speed, the device is going to pretty much play every PlayStation game. So, like Bloody Roar 2, I would say Bloody Roar 2 is probably the most demanding. From what I can remember, that game pretty much is using over 90% of PlayStation 1 resources. So, it was just an incredibly demanding game. And I can remember when this game came out, and I got it, how amazing it was at that time. Graphically, huge improvement over the original. Graphically, way higher resolution textures. It just looked phenomenal. It was fast. It was just something else, man. The first Bloody Roar was phenomenal. It was very good. But this one came out the next year, and it just changed the game. So, yeah, it was a phenomenal game. What more can I say about Bloody Roar 2? Just great game. It's up to ante. I would say this is probably the best looking fighter on PlayStation 1. Characters look great. They move great, animate pretty good. But the biggest thing with this game is they actually had real 3D backgrounds and they look freaking great. Like for a PS1 game, this game looks and plays phenomenal. Yeah, so in that sense, I would say graphically they even surpassed Tekken 3 with this one in the original Dead or Alive. So they really, this is kind of like near the latter of PS1 reign, 99. So really like the last year before the new console started coming out, so they had pretty much mastered the hardware and maxed it out. So it was like technically, it was just super, super impressive here. But yeah, for this time, this game, I want to say it pretty much looked better than any of the N64 fighters that was out then too. So it was just really, really impressive. You didn't see anything better looking than this until Dreamcast really hit. So it was just very impressive. But anyway, I put those two games back on. I put the real versions back on, so we actually got those versions with sound. So that's where I'm at on the PlayStation 1 side of things. So I'll hop back in there, but let me back on out. So PSP. Now what they did here, I touched on this a little bit earlier in the other video. Basically, they just threw like 250 mini games in here with like 15 real PSP games. So I got rid of that stuff and I put 50 actual PlayStation Portable games. Now, all of these games, of course, have the sound. The PS1 section was the only section they pulled that stuff on. All of these games work. They work really good. I want to say some that's at the top of things, the top of like pushing the hardware, something like Tekken 6 has some slowdown. It runs, but it has slowdown. Something like Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, it's full speed, it looks good, performs good. PlayStation Portable is going to be the newest platform this machine can run, but it works great though. I'm going to be doing some more fine tuning of this build. I have a pretty good idea as to what it can and can't run. There's a few games on here I'm still going to take off.
Welcome, the King of Iron Fist.
Yeah, there'll be a few games I take off, like I said, because they don't run quite as good as I would like. And I know there's other things I want to see and stuff, so I can easily throw on here. But like I say, this runs good. It looks great. I would say, if you know your history, Tekken 5 is going to be the first of the modern Tekkens, I would say. Three and tag is like still classic Tekken with a little bit of modern stuff like 3D sidestepping. 4, I'm gonna have to do a whole video on 4. I talked about it before. 4 is like the weirdest, most unique Tekken ever. And it's very, very different from the other ones. It's like the redheaded stepchild of Tekken. 5, this game pretty much established how the modern Tekkens play. They got rid of like the 3D environments and stuff like that. They went back to just flat environments and stuff. They got rid of interactive environments like they did on 4. And the new Tekken games, 6, 7, and 8, play very similar to this. I mean, of course, those games have stepped it up, have more features and stuff, but that's pretty much where you're gonna be at. So this was a landmark game. 4 was like kind of a letdown. They have a lot of content and characters. It wasn't as popular. 5 came out, it ended up being real popular. Kind of put it back on the good road. Yeah, so that's Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, the upgrade to Tekken 5. So all these games are good. There's a few red herrings on here I'm gonna have to take off. That's how it goes. You know, it's not gonna be perfect. Yeah, but that's the controversy with those two sections. The Neo Geo Pocket stuff, all that stuff's gonna be full speed Neo Geo. These are all lower end platforms. I mean, you really don't need much of any. Like, we were emulating like these platforms like 20 years ago, really. So that's nothing new. Dreamcast, yeah. Dreamcast and Naomi. Here's the lowdown with that. 75 Naomi games, and I want to say 30 Dreamcast games. So the Naomi section, I'm gonna touch on Dreamcast section. Yeah. Some of the games run full speed, some don't. Power Stone 2 is good. Mortal Kombat, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Hydro Thunder. You know, certain things like that are going to be great, full speed. But more demanding things are not going to be running full speed. They run good. I put the NFL Blitz on here. NFL Blitz 2001 and 2000. They run pretty good. It's not locked at 60, but they run pretty good, you know. And I hop in 2000 and kind of show you what I'm talking about. There's some fluctuations just with the frame rates on some of these games. It's an Android platform. Some platforms run better on different platforms, etc., etc. I've had some fun playing with the emulators. I'm still working on some things, seeing if I can perfect it, see if I can get the performance improved, but it's solid. It's definitely playable, and I mean, I would definitely play it. I wouldn't be against playing it. Now, is it, again, I've mentioned before, and I'll go into that a little bit later in this video, it's not a PC build. You know, the PC build is going to always be the way to go in this type of situation. Yeah, so I want to say you're looking at probably somewhere in the high 40s to 60 mark for the frame rate in this game. Sure bring back memories though. I had a ton of fun playing this. I would say the FPS counter probably isn't 100% accurate. I'll say it's running a little bit more at around 48 to maybe 60, excuse me. But it's still relatively smooth. It looks great too. So I made sure to get this on here because this is pretty much the only way to play NFL Blitz besides play on this build, because I mean the platform isn't powerful enough to play any actual 3D main games, so those aren't going to work. But these Dreamcast versions of Blitz were pretty much arcade perfect. Hydro Thunder Blitz, San Francisco Rush 2049, NBA Showtime, all of those ports were like right on the money, arcade perfect. So if you got access to those, you're pretty much good to go. So Blitz is solid on here. Yeah, I really like it. And you know, it's pretty close to playing it on a PC build, to be honest. I definitely rock it. I wouldn't be ashamed. Yep, so that's Blitz. Quake 3 Arena runs good. Ikaruga doesn't run the best on here. Now, the Naomi version of Ikaruga is gonna run better. It's gonna run like flat out better. You're gonna get a little bit of slowdown. I've doctored on it a little bit, but I'll show that off too. I'm gonna end up having to do a part 3 of this video because there's so much stuff I want to touch on, and I already been on here a while. So yeah, I'll definitely do a part 3 because I'll go a little bit more in depth. Then I'll close it out in part 3 with my final thoughts. But yeah, Sword of the Berserk, man. I almost forgot about this game. Wow, that was one of my favorite Dreamcast games. That's a great game, man. I'm gonna do a playthrough of Sword of the Berserk one day. Probably won't be on this setup, but maybe on a PC build. I want to get around and get back to doing like playthroughs and stuff for arcade games because those are pretty quick as opposed to console games. Well, I'm gonna make an exception for Sword of Berserk. That was one of my favorite games of that era, and that's back when I was like super hardcore. I was playing multiple games a month, so that was one of my faves from that era for sure. It was a great game. Tons of fun. They should have made that 2-player. That was really my only qualm with that game. So yeah, I've added some stuff on here. Fighting Vipers 2. I gotta put NBA Showtime on here also. That should run good. That was definitely one of those games. Project Justice, great game, of course. We all know that. I've shown it a lot. Both the Sonic Adventures and stuff. Virtua Fighter, it runs okay on here. It don't run the best. Soul Calibur is perfect. I showed Soul Calibur off last time. Virtua Fighter is not the best on here. Virtua Tennis runs great. Going over to Naomi, the games are gonna run. Most of the games run close to full speed. There's exceptions. Ikaruga, the first Power Stone. There's a few. It's a few sticklers in there. It's a great section though. It runs great. Of course, Atomic Wave. Everything on Atomic Wave is pretty much full speed. It's just Atomic Wave was just pretty much a Dreamcast anyway. All three of these platforms, hardware-wise, were extremely similar. Yeah, they were extremely similar. So, Trigger Heart Alexia, all of that stuff, you're gonna be full speed there. It did have, which is pretty rare, Street Fighter 03, which was Alpha 3 Upper. Unique version of that. It's on here. So that's great. But everything you're expecting from the Dreamcast era, plus, oh yeah, the Melty Bloods are on here too. Very obscure, unique fighting game from this era. And I would say this last one, Actress Again, was pretty damn good from what I can remember. I haven't played Melty Blood in a long time. I had a PS2 version of Melty Blood that came out probably before this. So it may have been one of the earlier ones that was on, of the three that's on here. I can't remember which one. I actually probably still got it somewhere. It was pretty damn good. And I played with this one, Actress Again, a while ago. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago. This was a great game, man. Like, if you're interested in 2D fighters and stuff, very unique game, phenomenal game. So you definitely want to check it out. It's quirky. You know, it's not American. It's very, very Japanese. But, you know, if you're into that, you know, I'm into all fighting games, but if you're into like more unique, obscure fighting games, I would say this is definitely one to check out. You know, definitely keep your eyes open for that. Great, great game. It's cool. I wouldn't put it up there with Groove on Fight or anything like that, or Guilty Gear though. That's a bridge too far. Melty Blood reminds me a lot of what's the Under Night and Birth stylistically. I think I want to say I like Under Night a little bit better though. Oh yeah, I gotta show off Blazing Strike too. It's a new PC fighter. I got it on PS5. I'm gonna get the Steam version to show it off on the Slayer though. The gameplay is nice on here. So that's Melty Blood, Actress again. So great game. Definitely worth checking out. So this device is awesome, man. For what they're asking for it, this is the best value out for retro gaming. Like if you're just interested, a lot of guys always hit me up and be like, I'm not interested in getting a cabinet, or, I don't have the funds or anything. If you want to get into this hobby and you're interested in retro games, this would be my first stop. I would say get this. You can get your feet wet. You can progress and upgrade to bigger and better things as time goes on and get more content. But starting out, even as this build came, before I added stuff to it, it's pretty damn good. I dig it. It's more things about this I want to touch on. But guys, we've been at it for almost 35 minutes. So this one's long. You know how I like to really draw stuff out and take my time with things. So it's a few more things I want to touch on. So I'll come back with part 3 soon when I get some free time. And hey, 3X Lex out. And oh yeah, don't forget, the Slayer coming, baby. The Slayer is coming. All right, peace.